to be time for us to begin our meeting. I hope this was helpful for everybody to understand what our place and position is in terms of and relative to the laws, so that we can know how to go about our job, and what references that we have available. People like Corey and Rick, and some of the statutes that are in our codes, our village codes. Rick, it would be nice if you could just send out a little note as to where to find those pieces regarding site plans in the village code. That would be helpful, so that we can all kind of be up to speed on the same thing. That would be.
And also, if people have questions, they can email me, they can text me, they can call me up. So don't hesitate. I'm here to try to make everybody's job easier, not more difficult.
Just one note on that, Rick, are you going to be giving us some more training?
I'll give this board as much training as you want.
Oh, that's great.
So,
All right.
could I just have one quick question? My understanding from this, or the I guess the scary part of it, was that if, we were about to violate somebody's rights in an egregious manner, that you would stop us, right?
That's my job.
Good.
That's right.
Okay. Just making sure.
Even short of the egregiousness, I will try to stop you.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, it is now, Alana, where are you? There you are. Okay. It is now time for the Village of New Paltz Planning Board regular meeting of Tuesday, January 19, 2021. We are live streamed and recorded remotely at 7 p.m. tonight. The meeting is held via Zoom and live streamed on YouTube, and these notices have been sent out for that. So we have a business agenda tonight that includes some administrative business, the usual approval of minutes and updates from the village board, UCPB and EPB. We have a public hearing on a subdivision of PB 2013, 5 Broadhead Avenue. We have a period for public comment, and I know that there were some comments about that people were not getting in the public comments at a time that they felt they could do it, that we were too quick to halt them. So I'm going to suggest that we have our public comments at the beginning, and then between the application reviews that we're going to be doing, to look to see if there are other public comments that people want to get in, so that everybody will have the opportunity to have their voices heard. Then we're going to have an application review. The first one is a subdivision, 1 lot to 2 lots, PB 2013. 5 Broadhead Avenue. The applicant is Stewart Shops. The second one is new residential construction, PB 2011-2012 at 21 and 31 Millbrook Road. Applicant is Floyd Niffen. So with that in mind, I think we should go ahead and get started. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the minutes from our January 5th meeting?
The December 15th.
December 15th. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any, do you think that we need to make any sort of edits or amendments to them? Okay, hearing none, then like to have a motion for the approval of the minutes from our last meeting.
So motioned.
And need a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So those minutes are approved. We are now going to move to the village board, UCPB and EPB updates. I see Don there. So Don, if you would like to go ahead and with your updates, if you would, please. Don, you're on mute. There we are.
Thanks. I didn't have access to the meeting packet. I don't know if that was an oversight or something, but I'm not really prepared to give a report. I'll address anything at the next meeting when I'm able to review the materials.
Okay. At your last environmental planning board, were there any topics or items that you felt were germane to what we're doing or that would be important for us to know?
We did have a discussion of the concept of a buffer zone around the Millbrook Preserve. I'm going to be discussing that with the director of the Millbrook Preserve and a member of the town board. And so we'll take that off the planning board's docket for the moment, and we'll get back to you if there's some news.
Yeah, that would be interesting to know. Thank you. Please keep us informed on that. Is Will here? There's Will.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I just joined. I have really no report other than today we broke ground for the new firehouse up on Henry W. in North Putt. Construction's begun. To take about a year for it to be completed. So looking at possibly early 2022. And so not much else to report. Still waiting on what you guys are going to do for the Broadhead property. And that's all I've got for now. Thanks.
Okay. Anything from the Ulster County Planning Board?
I was unable to attend the first meeting of the year.
Okay. All right. And we do have Corey with us. Thank you for joining us, Corey. If you have any updates that you feel we should know, now would be the time to bring them out.
I think in my case, that would all be considered gossip at this point. But no updates. Building department is just so beyond busy, but I've had conversations with Alana about reintroducing some more review from my office for the planning board, some more commentary like we had in the past. Just the problem is just bear with us. We're trying to fit it in with everything going on.
I think that would be a good idea. You have a body of knowledge there that I think would be helpful for us when we have to make decisions. And it certainly would allow us to get a much better view of things. So yes, please. Feel free
My
to
pleasure. I'm here for whatever you need. My pleasure.
You're very welcome. Okay. So the next issue then that we're going to move to is the public hearing for the subdivision for 1 lot to 2 lots, PB 2013, 5 Broadhead Avenue. The applicant Stuart Shops. Zoning district is NBR. Motion to open a public hearing.
So motioned.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the public hearing is now open. Are there any people present on this Zoom call that have that would like to contribute or have anything that they would like to present during the public hearing?
I will say I didn't receive anything in writing or anything prior.
And checking YouTube now, you don't see anyone who wishes to have any comment to the public hearing?
There's nothing there right now, no.
Okay. Should there come up something a little bit later? Well, we're going to be moving quickly into the application review. Should something come up as we begin it, please let us know on that.
Okay, do you want me to remind you to go back to the public hearing and close it then?
Well, that's always a difficult one about the procedure and how we should do that. Once we get into the application review, it's a bit difficult to go back to the public hearing, especially if we are looking at the possibility of an approval within that application review. So let's sort of play it by ear right now. And if you hear of anything, that please let us know as quickly as possible. You can text me, or you can just simply feel free to make a comment or bring our attention to it.
Okay.
Okay. So having no one who is speaking at the public hearing, a motion to close the public hearing, please.
No motion.
Second.
Sorry.
Aye.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is now closed on PB 2013-5 Broadhead Avenue. We're going to move over to the application review. The application review is for PB 2013, which is 5 Broadhead Avenue. And on this one, this is a returning application for a subdivision in order to divide the lot where the new Stewart's is being constructed. Public hearing is scheduled for the meeting. Applicants adhere to all the necessary procedures. Applicants provided the revised site plan as requested. And we have received from the applicant, just to review, a site plan. They've gone through seeker, a public hearing, and we could be ready for a resolution. But first, are there any further comments or questions that members of the board would have for the applicant?
What was the final decision about planting trees around it? They were saying they were waiting for some pending information on where the bike path was going to be, and now the bike path is definitely on the south side. Are they gonna put trees on the corner or not?
This is just for the division of it from one lot to two lots, and really wasn't about the positioning of the bike path on that. This is just to take care of the house that was part of the entire lot, and they want to break that off, divide it into two lots, and then the village, I believe, is going to be taking over that one lot of the house.
That's correct. There was a site plan approval that first occurred because it was a single parcel with that house on it. It had been amended, I think 2 times. I don't recall that provision of it at this moment, Rachel, but whatever was approved was approved. If that needs to be changed from what was approved, then they would have to come back for another amended site plan. But until that happens, they have an approval and they have to stick by the approval that they received as of the last amended approval that they have. And as John said, this is really a different issue of that parcel. And it's just subdividing off that portion of the house to be donated to the village and the necessary subdivision requirements that go along with that.
Okay.
Any further questions or comments by members of the board?
No, I think at this point it's come in front of us a couple of times, and I mean, I feel comfortable. I know the purpose of it, and I think I'm ready to move forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there were any or like what the differences were with the revised subdivision map that was sent out. If there's anything that should be highlighted, should be brought to our attention that's different, or it's just kind of a revised plan of the same thing.
This is Chuck from Stewart's. It's pretty much the same plan. The requirements for the subdivision were pretty explicit. The draft map that went out didn't have meets and bounds. It didn't have a location map. So it was more a dotting I's, crossing T's, resubmission than it was a difference in the maps.
Got it.
Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, it did look like it was just cleaning up some of the details that were necessary to move forward on it. So with that in mind, I would like to read a resolution for approval of the subdivision application here, PB number 2013. Just a quick summary as we had before. It proposes to divide approximately 1.56 acre lot into 2 separate lots. Property is improved with a Stewart Shop convenience store currently under construction, and a historically significant house known as the Ann Oliver House. Ann Oliver House will be located on its own 2,465.83 square foot lot that will be donated to the village of New Paltz to provide for the maintenance and preservation of this historical property, and the applicant will retain ownership of the 65,324.14 square foot lot containing the gasoline filling station, convenience store, and tow truck shop. The resolution goes on to give an identification of the property on the tax map. And it tells the identification of the plan and submittals, so that the subdivision application was dated on 10/22. The short environmental assessment form was dated as well. Subdivision plan was prepared and revised on 12/23/20. The original application was filed on or about October 26th. We met on November 17th and discussed it, approved the sketch plan, waived the requirements of certain village codes, and permitted the applicant to furnish a plat that contains the information that was specified in accordance with the village requirements. We determined that the Seeker Act, the application was an unlisted action. And then on December 15th, the planning board issued a negative declaration on the application under Seeker, declaring the project will have no significant impact on the environment. It was not referred to Ulster County Planning Board because it was exempt under the agreement between the planning board and Ulster County. We noticed a public hearing. Public hearing was held, and the final.
John, if I could interrupt for a second.
Please.
This was an unlisted action that was, the board declared a negative declaration.
Yes.
Okay, I thought you said a type 2 action.
If I did, I'm sorry. I may have read it incorrectly.
Okay.
Planning board, and acting in accordance with the subdivision powers delegated to it by the village code, has determined that approval of this subdivision is consistent with the orderly, efficient, and economical development of the village, and the character of the land is such that it can be used safely for building purposes without danger to health or peril from fire, flood, drainage, or other menace. Planning board has further found this proposed subdivision complies with Village of New Paltz land subdivision regulations. Proper provisions been made for all of the utilities, drainage, sewage, and other needed public improvements. No streets are proposed, and existing streets are good. No new development is proposed, and existing development affords adequate light and air facilities, adequate fire protection, and provides for firefighting equipment. Planning board also hereby finds, excuse me, there's an edit there, Rick.
Yes, I see that.
For resolution of approval. The planning board also hereby finds that any zoning nonconformities associated with parcel 2 do not require variances at this time, insofar as it will be owned by the village for municipal purposes and is exempt from the village's zoning laws under the common law balancing of public interests. However, and this is important, in the event the village transfers ownership of parcel 2 and or parcel 2 is no longer used for municipal historic preservation purposes, variances shall be required for all zoning nonconformities. Now, therefore, the planning board, the Village of New Paltz, hereby resolves to issue preliminary and final subdivision approval to the application of Stewart's Shops, but only as specifically set forth on the plans as identified above, or as subsequently revised in accordance with this resolution, and as further conditioned as set forth below. Specific conditions prior to signing the plat. Plat shall be revised to show the easement between the applicant and the village that allows cross access for maintenance of each other's properties together with any other existing easements. The easement with the village for cross access shall be in a form acceptable to the village attorney and shall be filed simultaneously with the filing of the plat. Prior to signing the plat, subdivision plan shall be revised to include a zoning bulk table for both lots. In the event the village transfers ownership of parcel 2, and parcel 2 is no longer used for municipal purposes or historic preservation purposes, variances shall be required for all zoning nonconformities. The resolution of approval is conditioned upon the applicant submitting all necessary final copies of the plans, reports, and documents to the Village of New Paltz building inspector. Resolution of approval is further conditioned upon all other approvals that are needed by operation of federal, state, or local laws. All fees regarding this application must be paid in full, including all application fees, other fees required by the village code, and the fees of the planning board consultants, including all engineering, planning, and legal fees. Any bonds or other security required by this resolution shall be submitted in a timely manner as required by the village code or building inspector. No building permit may be issued by the building inspector unless and until such fees have been paid, full and such bonds have been filed with the village. Applicant shall submit a filed subdivision plat. Any subdivision plat not filed or recorded in the office of the county clerk within 90 days of the date upon which such plat is approved shall become null and void, and no changes, erasures, modifications, or revisions shall be made in any subdivision plat after approval has been given by the planning board and endorsed in writing on the plat unless said plat is first resubmitted to the planning board and the planning board approves such modifications. So there you have it, folks. So all those in favor?
Can I, just one thing, and
Yes, please.
I think by now everyone knows my accommodating nature. But in the regard to the bulk tables for both pieces of the subdivision, just a logistical thing, the map is really busy. So I don't think that there's actually room on the paper for both bulk tables. So because the improvements are already constructed for both, can you waive the bulk requirement section?
Rick, you want to weigh in on this?
I have to bring up the plans to see what Chuck is talking about here.
So you're just asking us, Chuck, to waive the requirements that it is on the plans, is that correct?
Yeah, because I mean, I understand completely why the easement should show. And the easement would be like an area between the proposed property lines of the subdivided parcel we're giving to the village and the store. Or to remove the locator map or something like that. But the other, obviously the technical survey notes can't be removed. But I just don't know. I just wouldn't want it to be, I can't find a spot to put the actual, just looking at the map, there's no physical space unless I put it like up in the corner in between the locator map and the survey signature box. That's like the only white space remaining.
Which I'm looking at the revised map on 1223. I don't have the final one that you have. I know that it was sent in, but I don't have that in my file yet. Alana, can you put that?
Oh, Chuck's sharing the screen.
Yeah,
There we go. Thank you, Chuck.
no problem. So you see what I'm, the only space would be right kind of here.
Yeah, I would think, I mean, there's not a lot to put in the bulk requirements. I would think that you could shrink the locator map and the legend,
Okay.
as well as that total area, 1.556 acres. Just shrink those, and I think that will free up enough white space for you to put that in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to waive it if we don't have to.
Yeah, no, that's, if you guys wanted it, we'll figure it out. Okay.
All right. Very good. So I would like a motion to approve.
So motion.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we have now approved that resolution
Alana?
approving the subdivision 1 lot to 2 lots for PB 2013 5 Broadhead Avenue.
Did you just say my name?
Yeah,
No.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt John. I was just going to ask Alana if she was going to finalize the resolution with that one typo.
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
What page was that on? That was like on the,
It
it was fine.
on page 3, and it's the first line of the last paragraph above resolution of approval.
Okay,
Correct.
The planning board also hereby funds, and it should be changed to fines.
fines. Okay.
And then just
Right.
fill in at the end who voted in favor.
Gotcha.
Very good. Chuck, thank you very much. We appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Alana.
Thanks, guys.
Take
Okay.
care.
So, Alana, at this time, any further public comments? Is there anything that's come in?
No, nothing on YouTube or anything.
Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to be looking at PB 2011 and PB 2012, 21 and 31 Millbrook Road. Returning application for the construction of 2 single-family residential homes. The applicant has had a public hearing, which has been opened and closed. The applicant has also provided revised plans as well as a brief stormwater proposal. Plans have been referred to the village engineer and our attorney. And just to, again, summarize really quickly, we've received a site plan, we've gone through seeker, we've had a public hearing, and we have run into an issue. The issue was the management of stormwater runoff into Millbrook Preserve. After our discussions, we requested a study by the applicant's engineer. His engineer sent data to the village of New Paltz engineer suggesting a dry well, and I can't remember the exact volume of the dry well at this moment. And the village of New Paltz engineer countered with suggesting that the dry well by itself would not be sufficient and would like to have a rain garden. The applicant agreed, and so a dry well, a rain garden, and a silt fence is now part of the plan, and something that, should we move to approval, that we can require as part of the approval. So with that in mind.
John, if I could just for a second interrupt one thing. The silt fence, as is typical, would only be present during construction as noted on the plan. That would not be a permanent feature. The others would be permanent features.
Correct. Thank you for that. So with that information in mind, are any other discussions that we would like to have regarding this application?
I had a couple of questions.
Certainly.
The rain garden looked very interesting, and I'm wondering if it's possible for us to get some kind of a planting schedule, and I'm also wondering who's going to maintain it, because I know that, like with previous developments, they've had a plan that they were going to plant things, but then they didn't plant them at the right time and they ended up dying. And I'm just wondering what kind of monitoring or maintenance or schedule we would have for that. It looks beautiful, beautiful choices of flowers.
Floyd, do you want to address that?
Sure. So on the proposed detail, we do have a planting schedule with quantities. At the end of that detail, we also and the village engineer asked that we reference the New York State's Stormwater Design Manual for installation and maintenance. Ultimately, it would be the homeowner that is maintaining it. Since it's on the site plan, it would be required to stay as is because it's part of the approval.
Okay, so the homeowner would then be required to maintain it, maintain the life of the plants that are designated to be in the rain garden.
Yes, and like I said, New York State's design manual provides how to do the maintenance and also for the installation, as far as where to put, how much soil goes under the root ball, how much of the root ball sticks up, all that's in there. And that was recommended that we reference that by the village engineer.
Now, Floyd, would you be initially constructing the rain garden?
Yes, that would be part of my work.
So then it would simply be a matter of the homeowner maintaining the rain garden that you have constructed. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. It's we would do the installation and then they would maintain it once they take ownership.
Any further questions from anyone?
Yes. I have a question about the driveways. It specifies that the driveways are gravel. And so I'd understand that they're going to remain gravel, or is there any possibility that would change? Like, do they have to remain gravel? You're not going to put asphalt on them later, I guess is what I'm asking.
The intention is eventually to put asphalt. The driveway currently on the subdivision map showed it to have a surface like that.
I remember reading gravel. It said gravel driveway on
Sure.
the site submitted. I think that that's a really big, an impervious surface and asphalt like that is a big environmental concern. You know, you're in such a sensitive area. And I was trying to like look at the map and see, well, how many feet is he from the federal wetland? And it's really hard with the maps, you know, on the computer, because, you know, an inch, it doesn't, you know what I mean? I'm curious as to how many feet you are from the property that building is from the federal wetland.
And this is just approximately, so for 21, I would say the building's about 150 feet.
Oh, and the driveway, how many feet is the driveway?
For 21, driveway looks like it's 50 to 60 feet at its closest point.
Floyd, I'd say it's more than that. I'm looking at it too. It's a little bit more than that.
Sure.
I know we were hoping to have a buffer for that, but
So the one thing with this too, you have to understand is if his site plan is saying gravel driveway, that's the proposal now. If you give him an approval, that's all he's approved to do. The village has a protection in the code. If he decides to do asphalt down the road, as the property owner or the future property owner, it's their right to request from you as the planning board to do that. That would now be what you cause the change in impervious surface. The types of gravel and the ones that are there now do absorb a good amount of rainwater, but asphalt, as we know, doesn't. So right now you want to focus on the fact that it's just gravel. He cannot change that to asphalt without getting approval, another updated site plan approval from the planning board. That's built right into the village code. So certainly a concern, but I think one that you can address when that proposal comes back. I think what he's got now, just when I think I'm reading, the whole thing looks like gravel, which I believe was already pre-approved. I think you're fine with the way it is. I understand the need for a buffer, but just understand there's no need to put in, say, like a protection, which is kind of what it sounds like it's going, so that can't be done because there's already one in the village code. Just to kind of throw, if you didn't know that, just to throw it out there.
no, I didn't. Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Glad you're here. You've earned your pay, Corey. Thank you.
I have one quick question.
Yes.
So if the planning board requires a rain garden and the ownership of this project moves from Floyd to an individual homeowner, does the planning board requirement for the rain garden, does that burden move to the homeowner or does it expire? I'm just ignorant. I don't know.
It's a very good question, Don. To be safest, requirements have to, in order to be bound by a purchaser in good faith who is unaware of the restriction, needs to be in the chain of title. That would be on a subdivision map. That's fine because it's recorded in the county. On site plans like this, because this wasn't listed on the original subdivision plat, then homeowner wouldn't necessarily be on notice of it. I would suggest that the resolution, if it doesn't already, because I haven't looked at the resolution that John has drafted, should indicate that the rain gardens must be maintained in perpetuity. Corey, would you consider that if somebody is doing something that's contrary to what is on an approved site plan as a zoning code violation?
Yes, depending on, I mean, there's a certain way we go about it, but to answer directly, yes. At the end of the project, I do what's called a site plan compliance inspection, which is basically everything that is in the resolution on the plans to make sure that it's done. So when Mr. Niffen sells it, kind of like what you're saying is, I guess the best way to say this, we say it a lot, surviving the deed, in that this is the last known site plan that we have. So if someone, and this happens a lot, 20 years down the road will say, hey, this is supposed to have X. Well, the only thing I personally in the building department have to go on is your last approval. So we try to get people to update their site plans regularly so that they are updated with new features. But this is always existing in the file in the building department. And if I walk on a site or there's a complaint based on something associated with that, that's on this, I'm pointing at my screen, sorry, because if it's on this plan, then yes, I consider anything on here not there in violation of the approved site plan.
Okay, so that would be the remedy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good.
I usually try to talk to people first, let them know what's going on, that they violated it before we go straight to, enforcing in other ways. It usually starts with a conversation.
Very good.
Well,
Thank you.
one other thing, I don't think the board is going to demand this of you, but it also doesn't really cost you anything. If when you deed these parcels out, if you could put something in the deed simply saying, see also approved site plan for other conditions, then that locks it in legally forever.
I have no problem with that. That makes sense.
Okay, anyone else have any questions or contributions they would like to make to the discussion? Okay, so what I would like to propose is that we approve his site plan, approve this site plan PB 2011-20-12 with the addition of the following: stormwater management tools to be noted in the resolution, a dry well at the agreed volume, a rain garden.
John, I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt you. The rain garden was meant to replace the dry well. He didn't think the dry well was feasible because of the soil conditions.
I thought that he wanted the rain garden in addition to the dry well.
No, the village engineer's comments that I read was that the dry well was insufficient based on the depth it would have to go, depth of bedrock and all that. So the rain garden was there to replace it. It's substantially larger too. So that's, I think, the reasoning. Because it's shallower, it's only a couple feet deep. We have to make the area larger as well.
Okay.
John, if I could add, I had a pretty good conversation with Dennis regarding his comments that he made to you, and I'm under the same impression that it was in replacement of.
Okay. That sounds fine. I could have possibly misread that, of course. All right, so then we're going to ask for approval of the site plan with the addition of the stormwater management tool of a rain garden. And we are going to also put in there that it shall include the rain garden be maintained in perpetuity. And so we're going to take a vote on this, and what we will do is we'll come back next week with a written resolution that we will review. And if that, Rick, should we just kind of take the, what did Ashley always call it, the sense of the board, and then come back with a final resolution that was written? Or
so Ashley had reviewed, I drafted the resolutions, and then Ashley reviewed them for me and added a few of the conditions, but the only ones that weren't in there was the stormwater management, because I knew that conversation hadn't finished. If the only thing you're adding is the stormwater management conditions, I don't see why you couldn't approve the resolutions as amended, but I don't know if Rick wants to look at them again before you do that.
No, there's no need for us to look at it. Typically, if there's a drafted resolution and you make some modifications that aren't completely turning the whole resolution around so nobody understands what they're approving, then you can simply approve the resolution as drafted with the modifications as discussed. And then the modifications can be made and you can sign that resolution.
Do you, Alana, can you send me the resolution? I can't find the resolution that you wrote. Can you send that over to me right now?
Actually, can you put it up on the screen? That might be the easiest.
That would be the best and fastest way to do it, of course.
Hold on.
I had two small things. One is, I don't want to sound egregious here, but I'm just wondering if there's any way that we can not have any more of the trees cut down on the lots. I'm just saying, it's just such a sensitive area, and the trees really make a big difference, you know, especially because it's right near the park and everything. And you know, you can really see the difference. Like if you look at the Lent Farms neighborhood, you can really see the difference between, you know, the few houses that have left their trees up and the ones that have cut them all down. I guess most of them cut them all down, but I'm just asking about that. And then I just one more time want to bring up the idea of considering the rest of the property as a whole, because that is what the site plan, the subdivision, it's the, you know, what is it, 29 point something acres. You know, it's a really substantial piece of property right near the park. I mean, someone was telling me that's 22 football fields worth of, you know, just beautiful trees and you know, right by the stream and steep slopes and everything. And I just wanted to bring that up.
I can't share my screen because my permissions aren't allowing it, and I would have to quit Zoom. So I just emailed it to John and Rick.
Oh, I had one more question too about that. It's that you know, when you put out the public notice, I think I finally, like, just now saw the list of people who were notified, and I realized that if it's supposed to be within 200 feet of the property, then that would really, like, since the property goes up behind North Manheim, that would really include the houses that are on North Manheim. And I actually ran into some of the people who live there, and they didn't know about it, and they wish they had, and they're worried about the woods behind their houses. So that's, like, you know, it borders on the property, that whole stretch of North Manheim, north of Henry Du Bois.
So
Let's try to break these down into smaller bits if we could, please. So your first request was to consider trying to restrict the cutting of trees on the lots.
Yes, if it's possible. I mean, I'm not.
I really don't see how that could be both possible and be enforced, especially once a private owner owns the property. And correct me, anyone, if I'm wrong on that.
Well, you certainly, if this board believes that it is doing so, and not simply because it just wants to save trees, but because it's addressing one of the powers that it has within the site plan regulations, then, and I'll go over those in a second, then you have the ability to go ahead and you could draw a line of disturbance. That is done in certain circumstances where it's important with respect to do it. You know, obviously you try to balance whether or not it's necessary under all the circumstances or not, but it is a power that you have if exercised properly and in furtherance of one of the particular powers that you have under the village code, but not simply because I think it looks better with trees, and therefore I don't want somebody to cut down trees. So I'm trying to look through the standards for site plan approval in your code right now. So If you want to go to something else, while I try to see if it's connected to one of these.
Rick, to the board, to address Rachel's concerns, it is identified on the site plan, the area of tree clearing, and essentially it was just wrapped around the house and the septic field, and that's the only intention, and it shows it that way on there. It says line of area clearing for house and septic. So it is shown on the site plan. I know
Okay.
the two owners that I have, they have no intentions to clear the lots. They like the property because it is wooded, so we're trying to do the minimum amount of tree clearing in order to actually physically build the house and build the septic. So on both maps, it does show area of clearing.
Okay, what I would suggest, Floyd, is since that's a little bit ambiguous, because it just says the line of area clearing for house, and that if you instead could go ahead and just change that language to say limits of disturbance for house and SDS.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. That would certainly that certainly meets the request there and the question.
And
Other question was notification, and there is a requirement on notification for distance at proximity to the area, and the applicants are required to make notification within that area, and they're not actually required to make notification outside of that area. I don't know how far that, I don't know how many houses are affected within that given area. I would presume that Floyd met that by virtue of the distance from those sites to have sent out notifications.
It's 200 feet.
200 feet, okay.
Yeah, so to comment to that, my guess is the list that was generated by the village was based on 200 feet from these individual lots, not the entire property, since the entire property is not under review. So that's probably why North Manheim residents did not get the notification.
The public hearing for these particular individual lots is a site plan, and it is 200 feet from the boundaries of each of these. Each of them, so some would overlap, but there may be some that are actually different, one versus the other. But if you put them together and put 200 feet out from that, then clearly it would be done. But as I understand it from what was said, is that the applicant asked the village to go ahead and give it those properties that it needs to send the notices to. And unless we have some proof that it's not within 200 feet of these properties, then it would be proper.
And I think the fix to that would be requiring a greater distance, if that was what people wanted, because the town actually requires within 500 feet. I don't know how they arrived at that conclusion, but the village seems to require 200 and the town requires 500. I don't know why the difference, but
because it's just whatever, when they talk about these things, setting up the code, usually it's a suggestion by some planner who has put together these regulations for adoption. But the board can change them whenever they want. They could make it 10,000 feet. They could make it 20 feet. But right now it's the 200 feet. And as long as that was complied with, then the notice was proper.
Yeah. Thank you.
This is also not typical of the town. The village is way more dense with the property location to each other. So within 200 feet, you're probably still letting more people know than any property in the town is. So think about that. If you change it to 500 feet, that's a heck of a lot of people that notices have to be sent to, only because we are so dense. The properties that you're dealing with here are more typical of something in the town. That's why it seems different than what we're used to with village.
Very good point.
You got to put that in perspective.
Thank you.
Good point. So there was a public comment. which one of the commenters said that they would be concerned about the chemicals on the lawn due to the fragile ecosystems that are in the area. So understanding all that we have now, then we have the resolution here in front of us. And so I'm going to go through it here, so please bear with me. And it initially starts off saying that Mr. Niffen applied for site plan approval for 21 Millbrook and likewise to construct a single family residential home. Significant plans, the dates that they were revised. The
Have
village.
to revise those, by the way, because he's
Sorry.
I'm gonna have to revise those plans because he submitted new ones today. So I just have to revise the dates.
Okay. So
And
we'll note
also-
that would be that would certainly be a new addition here. Whereas the proposed project is located in R1, submitted a short EAF form on October 13th. Planning board determined that the application was administratively complete, determined that a referral to the Ulster County Planning Board was required, and a determination of no county impact was made. Planning board classified the action as a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. A duly noted public hearing on the application was held December 15 via remote live stream. And whereas the planning board finds that the village has a need for public parkland and recreational facilities, including improvements of existing recreation areas, the site plan presents a proper case for requiring a park or parks suitably located for recreational purposes, as it creates a new residential unit and will contribute to such need. And suitable parks or recreation areas of adequate size to meet this requirement cannot be located on the site plan, provides that parks, playgrounds shall be at least 1,300 square feet. Waives the planning board hereby waives the requirement of land reservation for the new residential unit on condition that prior to the signing of the plan, the applicant deposit a cash payment in lieu of land reservation with the village clerk pursuant to the village code in the amount set by the resolution of the Board of Trustees, with a credit for any prior recreation fees previously paid. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved by the Village of New Paltz Planning Board that the proposed site plan approval for 21 Millbrook Road to construct a single family residential home as shown on the site plan and elevation plan is hereby approved, subject to the following conditions. Renewal of the 2014 Ulster County Department of Health approval of the well and septic locations. And I think you just got that. Is that correct, Floyd?
Yes, I submitted that a few days ago.
Okay. Receipt of all other approvals that are needed by operation of federal, state, or local laws and regulations. The compliance with New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Codes. The village's right to enter upon property for purpose of inspecting. Payment of all fees prior to the signing of the plans, including but not limited to the aforementioned cash payment in lieu of land reservation. And final plan as submitted, as well the other condition of a stormwater management plan that includes a rain garden to mitigate stormwater runoff into the Millbrook Preserve, and that rain garden will be maintained in perpetuity. I think that
There's one more condition,
what was that, Rick?
John, and that is on the maps where it now says line of area clearing, that it will say limit of disturbance.
Correct.
SES. And also, Floyd, you may want to expand that limit of disturbance a little bit to include the secondary SDS area, so that's not outside of the limits of disturbance.
Sure.
John, are you using, because both the resolutions are essentially the same, are you saying this is PB 2011 and PB 2012? Or
No, but I'm going to cover that in just a moment, but thank you for reminding me. So as PB 2011 and PB 2012 are essentially identical, this resolution will be for both of them and include those restrictions, and will also include those items that we just discussed that Rick added, and the rainwater and caring for the rain garden in perpetuity. So with that, we want to take I'd like to get a motion to approve the resolution for PB 2011 and PB 2012.
No motion.
Second?
I second.
Okay. So let's have a voice vote here, if we would, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Dennis? Do you want to do this by or just let's just do a voice vote here. All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed?
Dennis, I think you're muted. You would just want to give me an eye.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
We
I can.
can, Dennis. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know the phone. Yeah, I approved it.
Okay, thank you.
So voted in favor. So with that, the ayes have it, and the resolution carries. And we have approved the resolution for the PB 2011 and PB 2012, 21 and 31 Millbrook Road. Thank you. So with that, the last remaining piece of business is a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We've been requested by Bill Murray to wait here for a moment. I believe he has something that he wants to discuss with us. It looks like the